This poor guy had to listen to my whole conversation, and he edited. Anyway, he ended up writing the story, and he gave me a byline. So it was my first byline in the magazine, and I was, I don't know, 19 years old, and I was so excited.
Coffee, micro markets and vending dreams. Break room legends and winning teams. Neil drops gold from behind the scenes.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. I've got another exciting guest here that I'm very excited to introduce you to, Alicia. How are you today?
I'm great, Neil. How are you?
I'm doing good, and I'm very excited to share your story, and we've got a couple of reasons for that. But Alicia, you have been in our industry for many years. Tell the guests who you are and then why you are so famous in our industry.
Famous or infamous? I don't know. We'll let the listeners decide when we're done. But so
Exactly.
I will try to give you the abridged version, even though that's not always easy for me. But my dad and a partner started Vending Times in the early 60s. And when I joined Vending Times in 1988, when I graduated the University of Maryland College of Journalism, my dad basically said, Alicia, I need help. Come and help me. And I thought it was going to be temporary. And, you know, the rest is history, as they usually say. So I started working with my dad as an editor, actually as an assistant editor, in 1988. And I was, doing it all, rewriting press releases. And a little while later, his partner said, why do you have Alicia in editorial? She should be in sales.
This amazing personality you have, right? Why is baby backed into the corner, which is one of my favorite movie lines. So your dad wanted you out and about to sell.
It's actually interesting because his partner wanted me out and about, but my father wanted me to get more years of editorial under my belt. And I think the reason now in retrospect is because he wanted me to make myself as marketable as I possibly could be in the event that the company was ever sold. I mean, what foresight. Right. But anyway, what ended up happening is I did get involved in sales, but I started doing a little bit of everything. So I would go to these distributor open houses, which was really big then. And, of course, to the NAMA show. And back then, the AMOA show, because I was covering the vending, the coffee service, the bulk vending, and the amusements. And I basically would have my 35 millimeter camera around my neck. I had rate cards and subscription forms in my bag. So I figured, I would use the editorial approach because people love to talk about themselves, as you well know, Neil, because of your authentic storytelling.
Yes,
and I would take their picture and do a little story, and then I would send it to them when I got back to the office, and I'd say, hey, for an even higher profile, why don't you advertise? So I figured out a way to really work with all of it. And it was so much fun. You know the saying, when you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And that was how I felt. So I don't know if you want me to.
I like that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hey, let me ask you a question. So did you go to journalism school because your dad had Vending Times?
No.
Or was that a passion that you wanted to go to just because that's what you wanted to do?
No, that's a great question, Neil. So I loved writing. I always loved writing. I was the kind of person, if you gave me an exam and there were essay questions on it versus an objective exam where you had to pick A, B, or C, I would always go for the essay because I never believed there was one right answer. I need to explain myself.
Right. I feel I'm in the same boat as you. What's going on in your mind?
Yes. So I chose that, and I actually was a sociology minor. I probably never told you that, just because I ended up spending so much time in the sociology building and also the psychology building because I love just learning about people. So I didn't, at that time when I was in college early on, I didn't really understand what my dad did. I just knew that he went to some really cool shows. And as a kid, I got
Yeah.
to eat snacks and I got to play video games. And I mean, as a young kid, that was the way that I
Yeah.
looked at it. But I will tell you this, and I didn't even think we were going to talk about this, but in my dorm room, there was not my dorm room, I'm sorry, the lobby of my dorm, there was somebody who was selling video cassettes out of a video cassette vending machine.
Oh my gosh.
And when
Yeah.
I got
Wow.
involved in my major, which was journalism, my father said, "Why don't you interview him?" So I
Wow.
interviewed him on with a tape recorder. Again, I'm showing my age. And I sent this tape recorder. I didn't this recording. I didn't edit it or anything. And our senior editor at the time, Tim Sanford, everyone in the industry will probably know him. This poor guy had to listen to
Yeah.
my whole conversation, and he edited it. Anyway, he ended up writing the story, and he gave me a byline. So it was my first byline in the magazine, and I was, I don't know, 19 years old, and I
Yeah.
was so excited. So that was my
That is
first.
funny. What exactly is a byline?
Oh, okay. So it just basically had the article, and then the byline, it said,
Okay.
by Alicia Lavay.
Oh, got it. Okay. Oh, wow. So that was your first official journalistic story.
Yes, yes. And I didn't even
I
realize,
love that.
like I said, we were just having, I didn't edit anything. I used, you hit play and record at the same time. You remember those cassettes, right?
Yes. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I'm up there in age too, so I definitely understand the pre-DVD, all the cassette tapes and everything.
yes, yes.
That's funny. Hey, so tell me, what prompted your dad to start the Vending Times? What was he doing before that, and what led him into starting it?
Wow. Okay. So my dad actually got his degree in accounting. So he went to college. He was in the Navy and he went to college on the GI Bill, Long Island University, Brooklyn campus, and he was
Okay.
working for an ad agency that dealt with snacks and candy. And this is the story he told me. Okay, my father
Right.
told lots of stories. He said that he was
Yeah.
on the accounting side and he would be listening on these meetings and he would chime in and talk about what he thought that they should be doing in terms of marketing, not necessarily accounting. So to make this kind of not such a long story, he ended up meeting Tiny Weintraub, who was an operator at the time, and they felt that the industry needed another trade magazine. And so they started Vending Times. And God, I didn't even really think about this, but I think Ben Ginsberg, who was one of the former editors and owners of Automatic Merchandiser, he was actually he started Automatic Merchandiser. It may not have even been called Automatic Merchandiser. I don't remember. So my dad and Tiny Weintraub, Victor Lavay, I guess I should say his full name. Not everyone's going to know my dad, but he's still my dad, even though he's not here for many years.
Yes.
So they decided to start Vending Times, and a couple years later, they purchased Vend magazine. Now, Vend magazine was owned by Billboard, so most people know who Billboard was, and Billboard is still around, and it was a big music publication. And if you got your name on the Billboard charts, then you were somebody. But they acquired the census of the industry, which we did for a long time, which was a statistical reporting on the vending industry, and also the buyer's guide, which was our annual directory. So, when they, whoop, my thing just fell out. Well, hey, I'm authentic, so what are you gonna do, right?
Exactly. We like authenticity.
I don't know any other way. So I'm an acquired taste is what I tell people. But most people in the industry don't seem to mind. They appreciate it. So but so that was really what happened. And then they started a music and games section. Vending Times had the vending section, office coffee service, music and games, and bulk vending. And we were actually the first. I mean, we were there even before Playmeter, but Playmeter's not around anymore, but a lot of people don't even
Okay.
realize that Vending Times was one of the first publications to report on the coin-operated amusement industry. And then, of course,
Okay.
replay came along, but my dad always got along great with, with Eddie Adlam and Carol Lally, who is the publisher of Playmeter. So, an expression that I used with you, my dad would say the pie is big enough for us all to eat. And he had
I
he had
agree.
a great relationship with everyone. And that's really how I
Yeah.
learned that way from him.
I love that. And then how long had he been doing it before he invited you to come and join him?
Wow. Okay. So help me with the math, but I'll do it in just kind of an even number. So if he was in 65,
Mm.
75, 85, I guess maybe 25 years he was involved.
25 years before you came on board.
Yes, before.
Wow. I didn't realize it was that
Yes,
long.
yes, because he started in the early 60s. Now, I was born in 1967, so I will be
Okay.
59 this weekend, actually. So
Yeah.
I was born in
Happy
67.
birthday in
Thank you.
advance.
What a great way to start this new chapter.
Yeah,
We'll
definitely. Yeah.
squeeze that in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was involved in that, and it was cigarettes and jukeboxes. I mean, that was really the foundation
That's right.
of the
Yeah. Yep.
industry. A lot of people don't realize my dad started the bulk vending segment, and was all the gumball machines. Bulk
Okay.
refers to the way that the machines are loaded, because they are loaded in
Yeah.
bulk. They basically dump those gumballs
Yeah.
into the machine.
Definitely. Yeah.
And, he felt that there really couldn't be a publication just dedicated to bulk vending because there wasn't enough revenue for it. So it ended up being a
Yes.
section of our magazine. And as you probably know, later on, a lot of the amusement operators that were operating cranes, that vended the stuffed toys, it was just a natural for
Yes.
them to get involved in bulk vending.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, I could
love
talk
it.
for hours about it, and I'm sure you have
Totally.
other things that you want to
So
know.
basically, the premise was you'd be out finding stories about all these different things, and then you'd write the stories in the right sections, and then you or someone else would come in and sell advertising all around those
Yes,
stories
which
in a print magazine, and then you'd mail it out monthly.
yes, in a print magazine, we had about 16,000 circulation. That's mailing at the time.
Oh, great.
It had to
Yeah.
be
Yep.
audited. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that I got involved with when I was working with the print. Very, very different now, but you were dealing with a printer, and of course, paper is a
Right.
commodity, and you were dealing with
Yeah.
the post office, and that's controlled by the government. So there were a lot of rules that we had to follow, and we basically,
Yeah.
we had to certify the accuracy of our circulation records to show that we're mailing to this person and they are a
Hmm.
qualified reader. So there was a lot of stuff that went involved that
Yeah.
got involved on the back end, if you will, that nobody was really
Yeah. Yeah.
thinking about. But that was the publishing industry,
That was the publishing. Yeah. It was pre-social media, right? This is how everyone got their news. Whether it was a newspaper that came in daily, they'd lay it down in front of them and read. Your magazine would come in monthly. Back in the heyday, how many pages thick was the magazine?
Oh, God, I mean, it was 150, 200 pages. I wish I had known you were going to ask me this. I would have grabbed a copy of one of our thickest editions, but maybe I'll send you some
Yeah.
photos.
Send me a picture. Yeah, we'll
I
include
still
it.
have them in my garage,
Yeah.
but that's enough. I
Yeah.
saved them.
Because I'm not going to show you the magazine. I'm going to try to do it here, but look how thin the latest magazine is. I just counted it real quick. It's about 10 pages of a competitive magazine. I will not say who it is.
No, it was huge, but
So, yeah.
keep in mind the advertisers that we were getting, there wasn't the consolidation that you're seeing
Yes.
now. So like all of those CPG, consumer packaged good companies,
Yeah.
we were getting, business from Nabisco and Mars and Hershey. And then in the soft drink category, I still remember, Sunkist and Welchers and of course Coke and Pepsi, but it was just long before a lot of the acquisitions and Nabisco being acquired
Yes.
by Kraft and the cigarette companies that now all of a sudden the name is escaping me, that
Yeah.
there was a leverage buyout back then with Nabisco that bought the cigarette company. And so basically what happened was you got fewer and fewer advertisers, and on the
Right.
manufacturing side as well, because you had national vendors. Of course, we know Crane
Yep.
now, which is CPI, and now came back to the name Crane. But we had automatic
Yeah.
products, we had national vendors. I mean, there were so many major machine manufacturers who were also
Mhm.
advertising. And then you had what, we refer to it as allied products and services. And that could be locks and securities and the lift gates
Yeah.
and the trucks and the insurance companies. Because if you had operators, operators had fleets, trucks on the street,
Mm-hmm.
and they
Yeah.
needed
Yeah.
these things. I know in one of your videos, you were showing, I think you were showing, how you have to lift this equipment, and you really do. You need
Definitely.
you need equipment for
There's a
that.
lot of lifting manufacturers in our industry, whether it's lift gates or lift trucks or whatever, but we're in a very hard working industry. So yeah, basically what you're describing, right, is our industry is full of entrepreneurs, business people who are operating small businesses and large businesses, and then all the things associated with this business.
Yes.
People are trying to use this organization. Yeah.
Very, very
Wow.
much
Hey,
so.
so when did you feel the transition away from magazine to more digital? Was that a fast transition, or did it come slowly over time?
I would say slowly at first, and then super fast. So,
Right.
so
Yeah.
actually, my dad died in 2003. And in
Hmm.
2000, I want to make sure I'm getting these dates right. In 2000, I had said we got to start doing this. We really have to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some of my colleagues felt the same way. Nick Montano, I will name names. We both
Yeah.
approached my father and said we really have to get into this thing called digital media.
Digital.
and
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
did our first newsletter from my Outlook content, my Outlook contacts, excuse me. I think I had
Oh,
500
really?
contacts in my Outlook address book, and we built on it from there. We came up with
Yep.
this name called Ahead of the Times, which I still think was pretty cool.
Hmm.
So it would be the news before
Hmm.
the magazine. And
Yeah.
we had the website, but the whole thing was, how do we monetize this? And in the beginning, it was difficult because it wasn't tangible, where the magazine they could hold in their hands. But then when you started
Mm.
getting involved in metrics and you could show people, you know, these are the page views, these are the click-throughs, and then you could really get
Yeah.
granular and say, there's this amount of people that are looking at these ads and reading the newsletter from a mobile phone. This one's looking at it from a desktop. So I would say that when my dad died in 2003, but I like to say that
Yeah.
he was on board with me in 2000. So I want to
Okay.
give my father credit in heaven above
Yeah.
for
Good.
backing
Yes.
me. He backed me.
Yep.
He was great. He had such an
Yeah.
open mind, and he was open to change. He was not stuck,
Hmm.
in old ways at all. He was a very, very person. And let's just say this, he also believed in women running a business. And that was
Good.
different back
Awesome.
then, but he
Yeah.
encouraged
Yeah.
me. Neil, he encouraged me so much. So fast forward,
Yeah.
so we had that subprime mortgage crisis started in
Yeah.
2007, 8, 9, right? The economy
Yep.
just
Just
crashed.
squeezed
It was
everything.
really
Yeah.
horrible. And at that time, I said, we've got to keep pushing with this digital. And a lot of things happened. We moved the company out of Manhattan. The rents were just
Hmm.
outrageous. We changed the
I bet.
size of the magazine from a tabloid to a standard size magazine because we had to figure out a way to cut back on our printing costs. And we started
Hmm.
really, really pushing with the digital. And at that point, the industry was also evolving. So, I used to say a lot that, publishing wasn't that different than the vending industry. We were moving along, and we were basically evolving just in the same way that our customers were evolving. You know,
definitely.
we
Yeah.
started, you know, it was OCS, then it became pantry service, then it was micro markets.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wanted to get rid of those bill validators or have a dollar coin. I want to move more into
Right.
the into the future, but it was really it was tough for a lot of people.
Yeah, I
It
bet.
was tough,
Yeah.
but
That's tough.
I'll give you a number that I remember very clearly. You know, by the time we got to, you know, I guess pre-COVID, I had brought
Mm-hmm.
our digital from 0 to 30% of revenue. It was already up to
Oh, that's amazing.
30%, which was quite a bit. And
Yeah.
it did lead me to the decision to cut the frequency of the publication. So now we're in 2016, 17, and I
Okay.
changed the frequency from 12 to 6 times. I
Oh my gosh. So not only did you change, well, first of all, you had to transition from magazine to digital in a certain percentage. Then you reduced the size of the magazine, and now you're talking about reducing the frequency from what is it, monthly down
It
to
was
every 2 months?
monthly, yeah, to bi-monthly. So instead of producing 12
Yeah.
issues, actually we had 13 because we had the buyer's guide and then we had the census, which was actually inserted to one of our into one of
Okay.
our monthly publications. But as you could imagine, you know,
Wow. Yeah. That's
print was
tough.
expensive. You know, it was really I
Yeah.
like to say, I use these terms. I guess it was my second biggest nut. I think my dad's terms
Yeah.
after salaries, you know,
Yeah.
was my printing bill. It was, you know,
Yeah.
that's what we were manufacturing. So it
Yeah.
was a
Not to
huge
mention, and we
expense.
haven't even talked about this, deadlines, right? In order to get a magazine out, you had deadlines you had to shoot for.
Yes.
Whereas nowadays, you just dream up a story and post it across platforms. There's no real
Yes.
deadline
Yeah. I mean,
as such.
fortunately, we were a monthly. I can't even imagine how people did that as a daily. I mean,
Yeah.
the pressure, but you know, we had to do it. Like, let's just say, for example, we were going to put out our April issue, and it was supposed to be distributed at the NAMA show. So this was our pre-NAMA,
Hmm.
our NAMA preview issue. We had to
Yeah.
cut it at some point, or the magazine would never make it to the show. So I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
otherwise I'd like to keep it open. You know, let's let my father would say the plane's going to fly anyway. Fill up those seats. You know, get as many
Yeah.
ads as you can.
Yeah.
But you got to a point where you
Right.
had to give a print order. You had to tell the printer how many pages it was going to be. There was a time when you could
Yeah.
only have so many pages that were color and so many that were black and white. That changed. That all changed. I don't want to bore you
Yeah.
guys to death, but there, you guys and gals, but there was a lot. There was a
Yeah.
lot that went
There's a
into it,
lot. Yeah.
but
That's
fun
tough. Now,
stuff.
as you're going through this and you're trying to make it work, and unfortunately your pops passed away, which made things tough, right? And then the you got hit by the mortgage crisis and that squeezed things and all these transitional things. When did you decide that, hey, maybe it's time for me to move on? How did that decision come down? And I know that's a tough one because it's your dad's legacy.
Thank you, Neil, for saying it's a little
Mm,
bit bittersweet because I think you know, and most everyone in the industry that, you know, lived it with me, it was very apparent how close I was with my father. And I'm the youngest of five
right.
girls,
Yeah.
I will mention that. So I was the only one that
Yeah.
really worked with him, not just as an internship. You know, we
Hmm.
became partners and not, you know, colleagues and we helped each other and all
Yeah.
of that. So yeah, it was a very tough decision. And it came about, so I had changed the frequency from 12 to 6. And after the
Hmm.
subprime mortgage crisis and just that economic shift, people stopped running contracts with us. They were going month to month. So you could imagine, you know, a company like Coca-Cola is running 12 times. You know, you have that at the beginning of the year, and now they want to go month to
Yeah.
month. So
Right.
it's like,
Yeah.
you know, how can you really project what your revenue is going to
Yeah.
be when you didn't have that, you know, book of business,
Yeah. That's
you know, I
tough.
have it on the books.
Hmm.
So I told my staff that I was considering going quarterly. And I had a great team of people. So you should know that they were all with me. They were with my dad. They stayed with me for many, many years. It was a lot in the way
Hmm.
you run your company. It was like a family. And I was trying to
Mm.
do everything I possibly could because I wanted to make sure that they still got paid. You know, you know that.
Yeah, no, I know how that goes. Those struggling entrepreneurs, when you got to make the paycheck every other week,
Yes, a lot of people,
it's hard.
if they're not in it, they don't realize you eat last as an owner. That's it. In
Yeah,
good times,
yeah,
it's
definitely.
awesome, it's sweet, like you would say. But
Yeah,
when things aren't so good,
yeah,
it's tough. So essentially, they weren't really on board with me. They wanted to keep the print. Now this was before COVID, so
yeah,
I don't know
right.
how I saw the writing
Hmm.
on the wall, but I said we are going to get rid of the print. We are going to go 100% digital. And I actually wrote my last column for the print magazine, basically saying the market has spoken and we've listened and we're going to be going 100% digital. And I felt, with that 30% revenue, I could, if I could cut the printing costs and the postage costs, and also I should tell you, I had an office, brick and mortar office, and when my lease was up, I think that was in like 2018, I said we're all going to work from home. There's no reason
Yeah.
for us not to work from home.
So that is just transition after
Yes,
transition.
yes.
So
So
hard.
I started looking for an exit strategy, and quite frankly,
Yeah,
I had been, talking to people, and I know I mentioned this. You had done one of your video podcasts with Oren, and
yeah,
I agree with him. The day you start your company is the day you should be looking for an exit strategy. I'm not saying that you should leave,
yeah,
but you should always entertain
yeah.
offers. You want to know what the value of your business is. So, I
Hmm.
had some conversations, but by the time I started talking with Networld Media Group, they were only interested in the digital. And I said, that's great. I said, because I wrote my last column for the print
Yeah,
issue. So they were very interested in the intellectual property. And they had other titles that I felt were synergistic with Vending Times,
yeah,
kiosk marketplace and
definitely.
digital signage. And
Kiosk, yep.
so to
Hmm.
me, I thought that it was a great fit. And initially we were going to partner just on an event, which ended up being the Self-Service Innovation Summit. They
Yeah,
they
great
they wanted to
event.
partner with me with Kiosk Marketplace and Vending Times. And then as we moved on in discussions, I decided, if they were willing to take me on and give me a contract, I would work with them. And the
Yeah,
crazy thing is, we made the deal in late January 2020. I was on the plane.
nice.
Trump
Congrats.
closed the borders to Europe. It was like just before COVID, which is, I'm going to look up
Yeah,
up in the sky and say I think I had a guardian
yeah,
angel, because
yeah,
I don't
definitely.
know where that foresight came from. I had no idea that that was going to happen, but the
Hmm.
timing was great, Neil, and
Yeah,
I worked
definitely.
with them, through that transition. I was able to work with Vending Times and work on their other verticals, and work on the Self-Service Innovation Summit. Now, I should mention that Networld Media Group is all digital. They didn't have any print. So,
Yeah.
um,
And multiple other lines too, like you just said, synergistic lines that you thought were good
yes,
fit.
and it was a great fit, but it was,
Yeah,
it was time to move on. As I said, I went through the
yeah,
transition with them, and good people,
yeah, good.
but you know what happens?
It's good to help them and hand it off and do your thing. And at some stage, then there's another transition away from it. So I'm the same when I sold my company to Cantaloupe, 20 years of doing it, and it was hard to let it go, but you got to at some stage and go and start a new chapter.
Yes, and what you said it. So I took a brief hiatus, and I've been
Yeah,
thinking, what do I want to do with this next chapter in my life? I'm
yeah,
too young to
hmm,
retire, and that's
yeah.
sort of a joke. It's not even about being young. Like my father worked, until he couldn't work anymore, sadly. But I mean,
Yeah,
so I love working. And in our
totally. Me
wonderful,
too.
I know
Yep.
you do, and I share your passion. But Neil, I miss the industry so much, and I don't want to like start.
Yeah.
My eyes are going to start tearing here, because I get I get a little emotional, because
Yeah.
I cut my teeth in this industry, and that means I grew
Yeah.
up with so many people who are now the CEOs of their businesses, and
Yes.
just such
Yeah.
wonderful people, telling their stories. And you and I met
Yeah.
20 or more years ago. I was running around the
Yep.
shows with my camera,
Yeah.
you know.
I remember, I'll tell you the story. I remember at least 20 years ago, I was representing someone and I was at the NAMA show and I saw you and I saw probably your pops as well. I'm not sure, but I remember going, oh, wow, there's that media lady. She is so cool because she runs a media company. I remember saying that at least 20 years ago. And it's funny, and we'll talk about this here in a minute. But now, I've drifted into the media industry, but I do remember seeing you at the show 20 years ago.
Yes, I remember seeing you. You had your Val pack. I reminded you of that, and you didn't even remember.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
you
that's
let me
right.
put a subscription form in your Val pack in exchange for
Yeah.
an ad in Vending. See, I knew how
Yeah.
to barter even back then.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've always just been an entrepreneur, just sort of looking at the landscape and just always thought that there was something I could do more. Hey, let's talk about what's next for you. It's exciting. You are going to come and work for our Go Refresh Media brand, and we are so happy that you've come over because the one thing I know about you, and I'm the same, is we have got passion for this industry. This is an amazing industry of entrepreneurs. And what we're trying to do here at GoGo is exciting. We're a multi-platform approach across all the new age platforms as well, in terms of TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. And to bring you on board as our salesperson, we're excited to have you.
I'm excited. I feel like this is just the perfect fit for me. The timing was great. I knew that we shared a passion for the industry, both
Yeah,
of us.
definitely. Yep.
And I
Yep.
love your approach because my approach was always authentic storytelling. And I started to see
Yes.
that, we were getting away from that. And I feel like a lot of the media has gotten away from that. And it is
Yeah.
still a very entrepreneurial business, even though they are far more
Yeah.
sophisticated. And I love your high-end videos. And what
Yeah.
I also think is wonderful, and it's very, very unique, is that you're not only telling the stories from the operator's perspective, but which is Vending Connection, but you're telling the story
Yeah.
from the end users and the decision makers at the break rooms, which is cool break rooms. And so you've got this 360 view, and you
Yeah,
are
totally.
you are telling it. You're inviting people in to really see
Yeah.
the full
Yep.
picture of how it's done, and no one
Yeah.
else is doing that. And the timing, and I know
Yeah.
you could speak on this too, but I'm just going to say, with COVID, a lot of people were leaving the offices and then they were coming back, and it became a hybrid situation. But they are really, the offices right now, you talk about, a Google, or a Microsoft, you talk about Amazon, you talk about these big offices, and they're bringing in, new employees, of a different
Yeah.
generation, and they want to figure out how can
Yep.
we keep them, in the office? What can
Yeah.
we offer to them? And
Yeah.
it's the break room. It's not just the vending machine. You've got micro markets
No.
and pantry service. I've been in a
Yeah.
few where they had shuffleboard and pool tables,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
cool
Oh,
stuff.
it's a whole new environment
Yes,
now.
yes.
The word that I like to use is an ecosystem. Within this ecosystem that we call the refreshment services industry, or the convenience services industry, right? There's all the brands, and then there's all the service providers, and they're all working synergistically together. And the goal at GoGo Refresh is just to authentically tell the stories across multiple platforms, because back in the day, all it was a magazine, and the stories would be told in that magazine. But now everyone gets their news and information differently. It's podcasts, it's YouTube videos, it's on Instagram, it's websites. So, our goal at GoGo Refresh here is to tell those stories across the full ecosystem, and then to get the brands to join
Yes,
us. So it's
absolutely. It's
exciting.
very exciting, and I still love that you can push it out, through an email newsletter with Vending Connection
Definitely.
and
Yep.
Break Room Beats, and you can
Hmm.
still post it on the website, and
Yes.
yet it lives on YouTube forever. So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
you're
exactly. That's it.
really, you're bringing in this new media,
Yeah.
but you're still not, forgetting about
Yeah.
everybody's roots. And there may be
Nope.
some people that are
Yep.
comfortable reading a newsletter, and
Yeah.
that's okay. But I think the storytelling, I mean, if I were to go back in time when I was doing these distributor open houses, instead of my camera,
Hmm.
I would be doing a video on it, which is what you're doing now.
Yeah.
And it's,
Exactly. Yeah. We've just moved forward from cassette tapes now to full on digital. I mean, sitting on my desk, I could just I've got all sorts of microphones and cameras and lights and computers because it's video. I seem to be video editing all day long now. It's as soon as I finish this video, I've got another one
yes,
coming up, and then at
yes.
some stage I've got to go and edit it. So it's full on,
But it's
but
great.
there's
It's
so many
great. And
stories.
I
Yeah.
really, I mean, I know it's got to come through. I don't make decisions lightly, and working with a
Hmm.
company, it's like a marriage. I don't know if I want to say that, but
Yeah.
but it is. You're going into business with somebody, and it's
Yeah.
very important for me to share core values with a company that I go into
Yes. I
business with.
100% agree. Yep. Yep. I think in the meeting we had here last week that you flew into, you could see our core values, man. It's all about our North Star is just trying to promote this industry in the most positive manner we can do.
Yes, yes, and Neil, I know it comes through your enthusiasm and your passion. I didn't even get to tell you this. I just had a conversation with Doug Snyder's with Campbell's, and he said, I asked him if he knew Neil. He said, Neil's a legend. I said, he's a legend. I said, oh, I thought I was a legend. Maybe I'm a legend in my own mind. I'm kidding, but I can't make this stuff up. It's true. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that was really great. I was so excited
It's
about
funny
that.
that Doug said that because Doug and I, it's not like I've known. I mean, I've known Doug. I've met him at many shows, but what he's referring to is the video production on LinkedIn. I'm just firing videos out there left and right, and that is the new media. I follow in the same footsteps as Gary V, which is a famous social media guy, Gary Vaynerchuk, and he said his theory is 90 pieces of content a day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That is crazy. If I could get one up a day, I'm happy. So,
Well, you're doing a great
we're definitely
job.
going,
You're doing a great, and you know
we're
what?
definitely
I am here to tell that message of what you're doing. And I am
totally.
glad,
Yep.
I'm not glad, I'm excited to do it. And
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm happy to come home is the way I refer to it. It's,
Yes.
I'm
I
coming
love
home.
that. I love that. Hey, and I'm so happy to get you to share your story today because I know that you were super close to your dad. And it's important at some stage to tell the journey, because as business people, we're all going through journeys. We all have our own unique journey, and it's never a straight shot to success. It's bumping around doing all sorts of ups and downs and stuff.
Yes, and there were definitely bumps along the way, from losing my dad
Yeah.
to suddenly, by the way, and
Yeah.
the subprime mortgage crisis, huge, huge,
Yeah.
and
Totally.
just the transition with the world. I mean, if somebody would have told me 20 years ago that print was going to go away, who would have believed them? Let's not even get started on AI, but I know you're huge. You refer to your company as being AI infused, but
Yeah.
but it's never going to take the place of humanity, if you will,
Totally. Yep.
really listening and talking to
Yeah.
people and that authenticity. I think that we can use these great tools, and that goes to the vending operators as well. But that
Yep.
customer service still has to be there, whether you're in media or whether you're a convenience services operator. People still want to know that you care about them, and that was
That's it.
always how I ran my business, and I know you do too. So,
Yep.
so I
Yep. That's it. That's the whole value system of Go Refresh is we care about this industry. We want to story tell it properly. And we don't necessarily want to use journalists. We want to use the people within our industry to tell those stories. So it's exciting. But Alicia, let's wrap this up. But I really appreciate you joining us here today. And we're very excited, honestly, to have you going out now and representing GoGo. It's going to be fun.
you. Thank you for the opportunity to tell my story and the opportunity to come back home to an industry I love.
Yeah.
So thanks, Neil.
I love it. I love it. All right, Alicia, thanks so much.
Thank you.